The top stories tonight in Y News. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. orders whole-of-government approach to mitigate the effects of El Niño.
Outgoing Philippine National Police Chief Police General Rodolfo Azurin Jr. confirms that they already processed the courtesy resignations of 953 police colonels and generals.
Suspended Negros Oriental 3rd District Representative Arnolfo Teveses Jr. was still no-show in the Senate probe on the assassination of Governor Roel de Gamo and other killings in the province.
And the Federal Bureau of Investigation nabs 2 Chinese nationals for operating a covert police station in New York.
Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Tuesday, the 18th of April, 2023. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. I am William Theo.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media channels. I am Hardy Delgado.
First in the news, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has directed various government agencies to make the necessary preparations and come up with a whole-of-government strategy to address the looming dry spell or El Niño phenomenon that may hit the country in 2023 until early next year. Nel Maribuhok reports.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has called for the creation of a team that would focus on mitigating the effects of the El Niño phenomenon. According to Office of the Civil Defense Undersecretary Ariel Nepomuceno, the President called to form the group under the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council to mitigate the impact of El Niño.
Through the mechanisms of the NDRRMC, he specifically instructed to form an El Niño team immediately. So the concerned government agencies who will handle the response and the mitigation activities will be immediately formed.
Yusek Nepomuceno also said the President wants the government, specifically the Department of Health, to focus on the illnesses which are usually experienced during this phenomenon. He added the public should conserve water in preparation for El Niño.
Yun pong paghahanda sa kakulangan ng tubig. Inaasahan natin yan. So, inutos niya kanina na dapat magkaroon tayo ng public awareness campaign at immediately, lalo na simulan dapat ng mga government agencies, institutions, including mga public institutions ng mga eskwelahan or schools, na magtipid na agad ng tubig bago pa lumala yung problema natin.
In the same briefing, State Weather Bureau Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical and Astronomical Administration or PAGASA said that the probability of the occurrence of El Niño this coming June, July and August increased to 80%. PAGASA Deputy Administrator Esperanza Cayanan said the probability may also spike to about 86% for the months of November, December and January. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Philippine National Police Chief Police General Rodolfo Azurin Jr. confirms that they already finished the final draft of the evaluation of the PNP third-level officers. Azurin said they are set to submit the final draft of the evaluation to the National Police Commission on Thursday. Leia Ilagan will tell us why.
Outgoing Philippine National Police or PNP Chief Police General Rodolfo Azurin Jr. confirms that they already processed the courtesy resignation of the 953 police colonels and generals. Azurin said some of the officers are recommended to be cleared and some need to undergo deliberation. But the chief PNP refused to give names of those officials that are found involved in illegal drugs trade.
Dito ganong but definitely the 953 na nag-submit, nahagip naman sila lahat. So some were recommended na clear, some are still being deliberated.
Azurin explains that those who are found to have involvement with illegal drugs will not automatically be dismissed from the service.
Siguro hindi tanggalin but kasuhan siguro. Magkandak ng investigation to determine yung kanilang liability or culpability.
Yan yung sa criminal case.
Criminal and administrative. But generally, mag-umpisa sa administrative case.
Other members of the advisory body are Baguio City Mayor Benjamin Magalong, Office of the Presidential Advisor on Military Affairs Undersecretary Isagani Neres, former Defense Secretary Gilbert Teodoro, and retired Court of Appeals Justice Melchor Sadang. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Department of Justice, or DOJ, is aiming that the country will be removed from the global human trafficking hotspot in 2027. Dante Amento has the story.
The Interagency Council Against Human Trafficking, or IACAT, has launched the 4th National Strategic Action Plan Against Human Trafficking in Persons today, April 18. Department of Justice, or DOJ, Undersecretary for IACAT Nicolas Felix T. said the plan focuses on the outcomes of their efforts to fight human trafficking in the country. The collaboration among member agencies, such as the Department of the Interior and Local Government, or DILG, the Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, and the Philippine National Police, or PNP, will be strengthened.
Panahon na magkaroon ng common messaging kami, no? Panahon na talagang mailabas namin talaga ang mensahe laban sa human trafficking. Nakita naman natin to na kadalasan medyo nasasapawang kami sa social media ng mga ibang hinanakit ng mga kababayan natin na para sa amin maliit lang na aspeto dun sa laban ng human trafficking.
They will be given livelihood, shelter, and protection. The DOJ added that they aim to remove the country from the list of global human trafficking hotspots by 2027.
Kailangan tayo maging mas realistic. Dahil yung problema ng human trafficking, problema talaga yan. At hindi talaga yan kahit anong efforts ng kahit sino man bansa, kahit yung mga bansa na may pinakamaraming resources tulad ng Amerika, hindi talaga nawawala ang human trafficking. So ang gusto talaga natin dyan ay constant ang ating efforts labanan ng human trafficking.
The DOJ recently disclosed that the SIM Registration Act would help in the campaign against trafficking in persons. Perpetrators can be traced through their telco logs and records. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Commission on Elections, or COMELEC Chairman George Irwin Garcia said they are almost 100% prepared for the October 30, 2023 Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan Elections, or BSKE. They have done printing 91 million ballots, and the additional 1.6 million will be printed next month. The Security Command Conference, meanwhile, will be conducted in August 2023.
Tapos yung mga ibang kagamitan, na-deliver na lahat sa amin at unti-unti na namin ito i-impact kasi gusto natin mas maagang ma-deliver sa iba't ibang parte ng ating bansa. So, ang kulang na lang namin ay yung training ng ating mga guro, ang ating mga electoral board members at gagawin natin yan ngayong buwan ng Agosto.
Meanwhile, the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, or LTFRB, said that the additional slots for transport network vehicle services could address the slow booking of commuters. JP Nunez will tell us why.
The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, or LTFRB, said that only more than 8,000 Transport Network Vehicle Services, or TNVS, are currently operating in Metro Manila and nearby provinces. This number is far less than the cap that was sufficient to meet the demand of the commuting public before the country was hit by the pandemic. As a result, the LTFRB issued a board resolution to open an additional 10,300 slots for TNVS starting yesterday, April 17.
Malayo po yan dun sa pre-pandemic na cap na 65,000, kaya may demand, kaya po nag-open initially yung board.
With the additional slots, the LTFRB aims to address issues with slow booking processes by allowing more TNVS to provide services to commuters.
Kung lahat po ito ay tatakbo at mapapatakbo ho at ma-issuean po ng provincial authority o ng franchise, malaking augmentation ito doon sa pag-book. Mababawasan ho yung mga reklamo rin ho ng failed booking, yung hirap sa pagbuko nitong type ng transport natin o public transport na gumagamit po ng apps.
Private vehicle owners who wish to have their cars operate as TNVS may inquire with transport network companies or TNCs who will then process their application with the LTFRB. According to Joel Bolano, head of the technical division of the LTFRB, there are only 5 active TNCs accredited by the agency. These are Grab, Joyride, TokTok, e-Pick Me Up, and Auto.
Ang first step po yan na kailangan po pumunta sila sa Transport Network Company o ito po yung TNC para po magpa-accredit. O yung interested po na magkaroon po ng franchise ng TNVS, magpa-accredit muna sila doon. At doon po sa board resolution ng LTFRB, ay sila rin po mag-a-assist sa kanila para ma-file sa LTFRB yung application ng CPC or ng application for franchise.
Since yesterday, 200 units of TNVS have applied for a Certificate of Public Convenience and Provisional Authority for their franchise.
Ang maganda po dito, pagka po nag-file kayo ng application, meron pong provisional authority na nabibigay agad para po makapag-operate na sila pending the issuance of the Certificate of Public Convenience or yung franchise. So pag na-file po yan sa LTFRB, pag na-assess na bayaran, mag-aantay lang sila ng ilang araw para po ma-release po yung provisional authority.
Meanwhile, the TNVS community welcomes the opening of additional slots. According to its spokesperson Saturnino Mopas, this will allow former TNVS owners to obtain new franchises. During the peak of the pandemic, many TNVS drivers surrendered or sold their cars.
Very welcome po ito para po mabigyan ng pagkakataon ulit yung sumubok at maghanap buhay dito sa aming TNVS transport sector na ito.
JP Nunez, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And foreign news abroad. Fury broke out across Kansas City, calling for justice after a black teen was shot by a white resident after ringing the wrong doorbell. Nerissa Dando tells us why live. Good evening, Nerissa.
Good evening, Elsie. On Thursday, April 13 at 10 p.m., Ralph Yarl, a 16-year-old honors student, was attempting to pick up his younger brother from a friend's house on 115th Terrace in Kansas City, but mistakenly went to 115th Street where he was shot by the 85-year-old white man Andrew Lester. After suffering shots in the right forearm and forehead, Yarl was able to call nearby houses for help and was quickly taken to the hospital, where Yarl's aunt, Faith Spoonmore, started a GoFundMe campaign aid with his medical expenses and had amassed more than $2 million. Lester later claimed that he pulled the trigger because he believed someone was breaking in. But despite being charged with 2 felonies, armed criminal action and assault, he was not charged with a hate crime. According to Chief Stacy Graves of the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department, they are still looking into the incident if there is a racial component and is waiting for Clay County prosecutors' evaluation.
After consulting with the Clay County Prosecutor's Office, the homeowner was released pending further investigation due to the need to obtain a formal statement from the victim, forensic evidence, and compile additional information for a case file to be presented. A formal statement is planned and forthcoming as a teen's injuries allow.
Underground laws, which permit the use of lethal force in self-defense, are legal in around 30 states, including Missouri. But prosecuting Prosecuting attorney Zachary Thompson found that the shooting was not justified. A heart with a number 16 in the center was painted in black spray paint on the exterior of the house where the shooting took place, and eggs were smeared all over the front window and door. Back to you, Elsie.
Thank you, Nerissa Dando, reporting live from Japan. European Union Ambassador Aidan O'Hara was reportedly assaulted in his residence in Khartoum, where the heart of the fights between the army and the Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, have been taking place. Irish Foreign Minister Micheál Martin said the EU ambassador was not seriously hurt. EU official Joseph Borrell Fontelles also condemned the assault and tweeted that it is a clear violation of the Vienna Convention, where the security of diplomatic premises, including its staff, is a responsibility of the Sudanese government and the international law. Meanwhile, EU delegation remains to be in Khartoum, while security measures are still being assessed, according to EU spokeswoman Nabila Mazrali. The U.S. State Secretary Antony Blinken has spoken separately with General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, commander of the Sudanese Armed Forces, and General Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo, commander of the RSF, to call for a ceasefire agreement to deliver humanitarian support to the affected community. Secretary Blinken also expressed a deep concern about the killings and injuries suffered by Sudanese civilians. According to UN envoys to Sudan, Volker Perthes, 185 people have already died and more than 1,800 have been injured in the rupture between the two forces in Sudan. We'll share more global stories with you later, but for now, back to you, Harleen.
Thank you, Elsie. For those watching our live streaming on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook. The Department of Foreign Affairs says that there is no request for repatriation from Filipinos in Taiwan amid the rising cross-strait tensions. Janice and Henta will tell us why.
Despite the rising tension between China and Taiwan, the overseas Filipino workers, or OFWs, in Taiwan are still in good hands, according to the Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA. They have yet to receive information that Filipinos in Taiwan want to get repatriated. This came after China supposedly advised the Philippines to oppose Taiwan's independence instead of offering the United States access to its military facility near the Taiwan Strait if they cared about the 150,000 OFWs in Taiwan.
Napakarami na mabalitaan na gusto mo may mga nag-comment na ano yung mga plano, pero meron nga mga plano for in case kailangan evacuate, pero hindi naman siguro aabot tayo sa sitwasyon. So far, nobody is asking for repatriation to go home.
According to De Vega, the country maintains the One China principle, which means that there is only one state under China and Taiwan is part of it. He reiterated that the Philippines is a friend to all nations and strictly adheres to international law.
The Philippines adheres to the strict adherence to international law, the non-use of force. Kung ano man ang ating treaty alliances, they are for defensive purposes. Tulad na sinabi ng DND natin, we're not making joint exercises with any country to aim towards attacking any other country. It's all about defense.
Meanwhile, De Vega reassured the lawmakers and the public that there are contingency plans in place to ensure the security of OFWs. Janice and Hente, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
As the Senate panel continues its probe on the Degamo and Negros killings, suspended Congressman Arnie Teveses is still a no-show. But several victims' kin and local officials maintain that the Teveses are behind the injustices in the province. Harleen Delgado will tell us why.
The Senate Committee on Public Order and Dangerous Drugs continued its probe on the assassination of Negros Oriental Governor Roel Degamo and other killings in the province. Governor Degamo's wife, Pamplona Mayor Janice Degamo, laments the vicious cycle of killings and impunity and the breakdown of justice system in the province.
The murderer of one victim is the same murderer of 2 or 3 more victims. Makikita mo yung connection that it has been there for so long a time. The presence of private armed groups by the Teveses is real and true. May problema po tayo na pag ang Teves ang kalaban natin, walang lawyer na tatanggap sa iyo. May mga problema tayo sa DAR in Negros Oriental. I-install ba naman ang mga beneficiary na sila ang mag-name kung sino ito? But the DAR people will only tell them, gusto niyo bang patayin kami ni Arnie?
Meanwhile, Siaton Mayor Fritz Diaz claims the Teveses are behind the continuous operations of e-sabong in the province. He also requested for an executive session to reveal his evidence.
Kaya walang nasolve na killings sa Negros Oriental, sir, because of the enforcers. Not all, kasi maraming mababait. Pero karamihan sa may rank na enforcers, bayad po ng mga Teves using the gambling money. Police po ang pumapatay sa Negros Oriental. Tapos there is a lot of cover-up, sir.
However, suspended Congressman Arnie Teves' brother, former Negros Oriental Governor Pride Henry Teves, denies involvement in gambling activities.
About e-sabong, I am not involved in any gaming or numbers games. In fact, I already gave a waiver to my bank secrecy and all my assets. You can check it for the last 15 years. Kung bigla ba akong yumaman, kung may pera bang pumasok, or may nabili ba akong mga lupa na biglang hindi mo alam saan galing yung pera.
Meanwhile, the Senate panel detains Police Staff Sergeant Renevic Rizaldo for allegedly lying. Rizaldo, who is a desk officer in Bayawan City Police Station in Negros Oriental, allegedly refused to write a police blotter when Juem Estinoso asked for help, fearing for his life. Estinoso, who was running for councilor in Bayawan City, was gunned down last year. Rizaldo denies this, saying that he cannot recall such incident, but he admits it could be possible.
Si Juem ang nagpunta doon sa police station para magpa-blatter dahil may threat siya.
Okay.
At saka may 2 tao na something will happen to him.
Okay.
So nag-report siya dito, nag-ayog, nag-report, ipa-blatter. Yun ang time nag-sabihan siya na guni-guni mo lang yan. Hindi in-entertain.
Wala akong matandaan nung pumunta si Juem. Nung nakausap na lang kami ni Doktor at ni Brad, ang sabi ko kung gusto niya ipa-blatter, yung nangyari, ipa-blatter na lang po.
Nailayawan mo, sabi mo daw, guni-guni mo lang yan. Tapos kayo, mag-deny ka na lumapit sa'yo. Ganun ka na ba walang bayag? Umamin kung ginawa mo yan.
Meanwhile, the committee also recommended to the Justice Department to form a special task force Negros Oriental prosecution team that will focus on the speedy resolution of cases related to Negros killings. The Senate panel will hold another hearing on Wednesday, April 18. Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God. 2 government agencies have warned the public about the quality of water in the majority of shores in Puerto Galera. Based on the water analysis, the majority of the samples failed to meet the guidelines set by the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. Ray Pelayo will tell us why.
Out of the 35 water sampling stations in Puerto Galera, only 9 met the criteria of DENR. This includes Small La Laguna and Big La Laguna shorelines, Balete, Central Sabang Shoreline, Coco Beach, Batangas Channel, Panikian, Balatero, and West San Isidro Bay. The majority of the stations were contaminated with oil and grease. But according to Department of Environment and Natural Resources or DENR Undersecretary Jonas Leones, they cannot say now if the chemicals are from the sunken empty Princess Empress.
Sabi po ng statement, kailangan po magkaroon ng pag-aaral, i-analyze yung water quality dahil based po sa aming mga beta results, yung lugar ng Puerto Galera based sa mga ating stations, talagang hindi na rin maganda ang water quality even before the oil spill.
DNR Secretary Maria Antonia Yulo Loizaga said that there is a process for tracing the source of the chemical seen in the samples.
This is a whole-of-government approach, and so PCG has this capability to do fingerprinting, and we are looking forward to them as well being part of this work.
Yusek Leones added that even if the water in the area is visibly clear, it doesn't mean that it is safe. Based on the joint statement of DNR and DOH, exposure to contaminated waters may cause skin diseases such as blisters and rashes.
Yung visual appearance ng water na malinaw ay pwedeng sabihin na malinis, but yung chemical composition ng water ay madumi. Makikita niyo ito hindi lang sa Mindoro, sa Manila Bay, sa Baseco, even diyan, no? So malinaw, kaya gusto ng mga tao maligo doon. Pero ina-advise pa rin namin dahil because of the water sampling analysis na ginawa natin, may mga implication if they will be continue swimming in those areas.
The DNR will continue to conduct water testing in the area. They are now assessing the damage caused by the oil spill to the environment. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Even before President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. visited Oriental Mindoro on April 15, the water sample quality test in Puerto Galera on April 14, which was conducted by the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR, was released. It appeared that out of the 35 stations that took water samples in Puerto Galera, only 9 passed. This is also what the provincial government reported in the briefing with the president and local executives. However, it seems like the provincial government is putting Puerto Galera in a bad light. Governor Humerlito Dolor has talked to the Department of the Interior and Local Government Secretary Benhur Abalos and the Department of Health and the DENR and said that any matters or decision concerning the ban will be left up to the national government. Tourism is still open in Puerto Galera, but what is prohibited are water activities due to its lower quality level.
Starting today, on every questions relative to bans, I will refer it to them. The provincial government will no longer impose our own bans. Hindi na ako maglalagay ng kahit anong pagbabawal. Ang pagbabawal ho ay manggagaling sa national government. Pag sinabi ng DOH bawal, tulad ng sinabi niya kanina, bawal. Pag sinabi nilang lifted, lifted. Ang gagawin ho ng pamahalaang panlalawigan ay mag-monitor ng nangyayari, siguraduhin kumakain ng mga tao.
The Philippine Sports Commission is hoping that our Filipino athletes can perform better in the upcoming 32nd Southeast Asian Games. At a press conference, PSC Chairman Richard Bachman said that several athletes participating abroad have been winning. The 32nd SEA Games will kick off in Cambodia on May 21, where 905 athletes across 608 events will participate under the Philippine team. This is higher compared to the 656 athletes that participated last year. Chairman Bachman also said that the agency continues to provide support when it comes to training and other expenses of our Filipino athletes.
If we were fourth place last year, then hopefully we can improve this year. If you look at some of the sports who are been not training abroad or going to events abroad, and they've been winning. Okay, so hopefully that will carry over all the way to Southeast Asia, Cambodia.
Meanwhile, the Office of Civil Defense assures that the power supply in the country is still sufficient. Meanwhile, a transformer in Barangay Central, Quezon City broke yesterday, causing power outage in over 2,000 residents. Bernadette Tinoy will tell us why.
The Office of Civil Defense, or OCD, confirms that the power supply is still sufficient in the country. OCD Undersecretary Ariel Nepomuceno said the reserve power is thinning but is expected to be filled by July because of the Ilihan power plant.
kumbaga good news naman, kung sapat ba yung kuryente sa mga susunod na panahon. Oo, kasi according to the Department of Energy, ang sagot is sapat naman. Although manipis sa ngayon yung reserba, pero pagdating ng June or July, it was reported July, madadagdagan or mabubuhay muli yung Ilihan LNG power plant at madadagdagan din ng isa pa yung first gen power plant, totaling at least additional 1,200 megawatts of additional supply. So sa pagdating sa usaping kuryente, ang good news nga, covered naman yan.
Yusik Nepomuceno added that energy conservation is important to sustain the power supply in the country.
At ang energy conservation, dapat ngayon pa lang, again, bago pa lumala yung problema, ay magtipid na tayo ng consumption natin ng kuryente para hindi lumala ito at pag dumating yung talagang masamang epekto ng El Niño, handa po ang bansa.
Meanwhile, Barangay Central in Quezon City experienced a power outage yesterday evening due to a transformer breakdown.
Meron pong sumabog na transformer along dito sa Colon House po, dito sa Matalino po. Yung unang inaksyon na yung area na may sumabog, and then sa nag-ikot po ang ating mga katanod sa mga area na may naapektuhan ng brownout.
Meralco explained that over 2,700 residents have been affected by the power outage. The power distributor also added that the transformer has already been fixed. Meralco then announced that there are no rotating brownouts in the country and the power distributor will immediately respond to any action. Bernadette Tinoy, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The United States Department of Justice has announced the arrest and charges against multiple individuals accused of conspiring to act as agents for the People's Republic of China, or the PRC, by establishing a covert police station in New York and running repression schemes. Joselito Liquido tells us why, live. Yes, Joselito?
Good evening, Elsie. During a press conference today, April 18, the U.S. top federal prosecutors disclosed the arrest of 2 New Yorkers accused of working in connection to the Chinese government by operating a secret police station in Manhattan's Chinatown neighborhood. The illegal establishment was searched and shut down by authorities last autumn as a part of a trio of law enforcement actions revealed by the FBI.
The 2 complaints charge more than 30 officers with China's National Police Force, which is called the Ministry of Public Security, or the MPS, and 2 New York City residents with violations of U.S. law. Unlike typical officers, the MPS officers who have been charged today are not focused on preventing crime. Rather, the complaints charge these MPS officers with engaging in transnational repression schemes targeting members of the Chinese diaspora community in New York City and elsewhere in the United States. And as shown in these complaints, the MPS has repeatedly and flagrantly violated our nation's sovereignty, including by opening and operating a police station in the middle of New York City.
Additionally, the accused pair named Harry Lu Zhan Wang, 61, and Chen Jinping, 59, admitted to the FBI that they deleted evidence of communication with a PRC official after learning they were under investigation. They are expected to appear in Brooklyn's federal court later on the same day. Meanwhile, the prosecutors have also charged 34 MPS officers for running an online troll farm to target, harass, and threaten Chinese dissidents and pro-democracy activists. The more than 3 dozen MPS officers are suspected of having returned to China and are still on the run. Back to you, Elsie.
Thank you, Joselito Liquido, reporting live from Malaysia. SpaceX has called off the debut flight of its biggest rocket ever, marking the postponement of the first launch attempt. However, Elon Musk remains optimistic that the issues will be rectified. Ia De Vera will tell us the details.
The 120-meter giant rocket called Starship was planned to fly from the SpaceX facility at Boca Chica, Texas, within a 2-hour launch window beginning 8 a.m. local time on Monday, April 17. However, with just over 8 minutes left in the countdown, the company announced the delay in the launch due to a pressurization issue in the lower stage rocket booster. Founder and Chief Executive Officer of SpaceX, Elon Musk, tweeted that he learned a lot from the delay and expects to try again in the coming days. The Starship's flight would have been a key milestone in SpaceX's journey to sending humans back to the moon and ultimately to Mars as part of NASA's human spaceflight program. A successful blast-off would also mark the Starship rocket as the most powerful launch vehicle on Earth, with nearly twice the power than NASA's Space Launch System. The next attempt to launch the rocket is scheduled for Thursday. Ia De Vera, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I am Elsie Marcos, live from Auckland, New Zealand. Good evening.
The Department of Health, or DOH, will not recommend the return of mandatory wearing of face masks despite the rise of COVID-19 cases in the country. Gladys Toabi will tell us why.
The Health Department expects the rise of COVID-19 cases in the country after the long holiday as people had many interactions. From 6.9% positivity rate last week, it has now reached to 7.6%. However, despite the increase in COVID-19 cases, the DOH reiterates that the voluntary wearing of face masks will still remain, as well as the COVID-19 protocols in the country.
Hindi po tayo ngayon nagko-consider na ibalik po ang masking mandate. We encourage everybody, kahit naman po noon, na tayo po ay piliin natin, na alam natin kung kailan tayo magmamask, lalong-lalo na po kung ito po ay isang lugar na matao, ang lugar po ay pangit ang ventilasyon, this is voluntary, para lamang po mas protektado tayo at mas protektado ang ating mga kabataan.
Along with this, the department encourages the public to wear masks in crowded areas, places with poor ventilation, and people with existing illnesses. Gladys Tuabi, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Our Kasangbahay, as the world faces these trying times amid the pandemic caused by coronavirus, we are inviting everyone to join the global prayer for humanity from Monday to Friday, 9:30 p.m. Philippine time through the social media accounts of Members Church of God International.
And before we close, we will leave you with a word, giving glory to God, from the book of Zechariah, chapter 8, verse 17. It says, "And let none of you imagine evil in your hearts against his neighbor, and love no false oath, for all these are things that I hate, saith the Lord." And those are the reasons behind the news, April 18, 2023. Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am Harleen Delgado.
And because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.